for the defensive coordinator to be in that room providing that instruction, yeah, you eliminate the middleman. The message goes directly to the people that are the most important people on the defense, and that's the front line unit.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Okay, shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars because they just hired a new DC, and I'm gonna give you a little bit on them. Ryan Nielsen, DC for your Jacksonville Jaguars now. Looks like he was born in '79. He's 44. From California, went to USC from '97 to 2001. Went undrafted in '02. Looks like he signed on with the Eagles in '02 for an offseason and practice squad only, and then played for the Los Angeles Avengers in 2004. As a coach, though, oh wow, so he goes USC till 2001, undrafted, offseason and practice squad only for the Eagles in '02, takes '03 off, '04 signs with the Avengers. Then after that becomes the Ole Miss defensive line coach, Central Connecticut State defensive coordinator and defensive line and linebackers coach. Wow. 2010 UT Martin defensive line, Northern Illinois defensive line, NC State. Then 2016, after his start in 2005, so 11 years in, he becomes the assistant head coach and defensive line coach of the Saints in 17. 2020. He leaves defensive line coach, becomes the assistant head coach and defensive line coach in 21. Then 22 becomes the co-defensive coordinator and defensive line coach. So it actually looks like he took a step back. He went from assistant head coach in 21 to co-DC. Then in 23 to the Falcons to be DC and defensive line coach. And now he's just a DC. Oh, I take that back. In 2004, he was busy, actually. He was not doing nothing. He was the administrative assistant at Idaho. So it's interesting. So it looks like he's been defensive pretty much the entire time. He was also a volunteer assistant at USC. He did play a D tackle as well, so that explains a lot. Defensive line, DC. So it's going to be real interesting. But we do have Bucky Brooks to give us a little bit more in-depth of a breakdown. So we're going to pass it over to him now. I'm going to stop talking.
The Jaguars have a new defensive coordinator. Ryan Nielsen is in. Bucky Brooks is with us now for more. And, he's going to be 45 years old in March. He's been with the Saints and the Falcons. What else do you know about Nielsen and his style as a coordinator?
Look, man, he's done a really good job in a short time. The job he did as a coordinator in Atlanta was really impressive. He really turned the defense that ranked in the bottom third in several major categories and had him in the top 10. He did it using a multiple style. They used multiple fronts, played a lot of man-to-man coverage, a lot of nose-to-nose stuff where they take away the layups and the gimmies and kind of force you to make big boy throws outside the numbers. And when you play that kind of style, you can really kind of suffocate teams because you force them to work over down the line. You force them to low percentage throws, and they have to be on. And so the key will be taking the personnel that the Jaguars have currently and seeing if the current personnel is good enough to play that style. And if not, what pieces do you need to add to the puzzle to allow them to play the defense the way that he sees fit?
First of all, I didn't know that he turned that around that much. That's quite a bit. And with this Jags team, they've got some pieces on defense. Obviously, they're going to be retooling after their disaster of a season this year. This is T-Law's moment to shine. Obviously, a lot can happen. There could be trades. There could be some acquisitions. The rumors Calvin Ridley might leave too. So there's a lot of offseason questions, both on the offense and defensive side. But this seems like the right fit for the Jaguars, at least for right now, especially since the dude's only 45.
There's a lot of you read some of the past players who've played for him and under him, and there's a lot of they use the word fiery a lot of attack and aggressive. What does all that really mean when you're dialing up plays on defense?
Well, look, there are a couple different ways that you can play in the National Football League, and I think if the playoffs have shown us, the only way that you can play successfully is you got to bring pressure. You have to find a way to put pressure on the quarterback and the opposing play caller. And you can do that by blitzing and sending 5- and 6-man pressures. You can do that by using simulated pressures where you're sending a second level defender, but you're only rushing four, but you're really keeping the pressure on the quarterback to figure out who's coming and what. To do it, you need a defense loaded with urgent athletes, guys that are fast, physical, that want to get after it. You have guys in the back end that can play man to man, that are athletic enough to stick with their guys and understand it. And then you have to be able to teach it in a way that they're not bogged down by the clutter, that they can play fast and get after it. And so I think Nielsen has already shown that he's able to take a system and take a team quickly and teach them how to play. I think I am just curious about the assistance that could come with him, because the assistant coaches really play a huge part in helping him to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, and one of the things he touched on right there, I mean, is you want them to be briefed, you want them to be smart, you want them to be prepared, you want them to know the playbook, know their opponent. There's so many different things. But what you don't want them to do is think too much out on that field. We've heard from players in the past where they're overthinking these plays. They're like, okay, I need to diagnose this, figure out what this is, cover two, whatever it may be. And then they act. Whereas you're seeing some of these more Hall of Fame instinctual players, the Palomalus, the Ray Lewises, they're still processing it, but they're also acting as they're processing it. So you see a lot more blown up plays and stuff like that. So I feel like you have to need to strike a balance between those two, because if they're so cerebral that they're just thinking about it before they act, then that's not the way to go. And obviously acting without knowing is even worse. So.
And, you know, in his last couple stops in New Orleans and in Atlanta, he was the defensive line coach on top of being the coordinator, Bucky, juggling both roles.
Yeah, this is kind of what we went over at the start, just kind of where he went all over, playing experience, college experience, and then NFL experience. He's definitely got a pedigree. It's all going to be, like what he said, the coaches around him, and, of course, the personnel pieces. I'll forever beat the table that personnel means more than coaching. Obviously, if we put a whole team, a whole defense of TJ Watts, it's going to affect a lot more people than an entire defense of me. So,
well, the thing about that is, I'm a big believer in you never leave your expertise, even though you get a promotion, you know. And so when you are a guy who's the defensive coordinator,
funny enough, I actually heard something about that. Never leave your expertise behind. This is going to be a really quick tangent. That's actually apparently what Sirianni did in Philly. Philly was apparently somebody that really liked the offensive side. They had Reich previously. Reich helped train Sirianni up, and then once he became HC, he took a step back from the offensive scheme and everything, and actually working with that, and decided to be more of a CEO, which is why we're seeing the growing pains with the Eagles now. So it's going to be very interesting. Does he do that? Does he continually stay in his lane? And I don't mean that in a negative way, like, oh, you need to stay in your lane financially or something like that, but like you have a wealth of knowledge at a specific position, a specific group of people, whatever it may be. You need to continue to put that knowledge into more people, because that's how your organization and the people inside your organization grow. So I'm tangent over.
if the D line has been your baby, you can pay close attention to that. If you think about this league and the way this league is going, and really has always been, you hear people talk about it being a line of scrimmage league. O-line, D-line play is critical. The teams that are playing in the Final Four, their defensive line dominates. And so if I'm going to be the defensive coordinator, I'm going to make sure that I have a big part in making and helping the D-line play at their best. And so for guys like Josh Allen, hopefully he stays, Trayvon Walker, and some of the other guys up front, for the defensive coordinator to be in that room providing that instruction, yeah, you eliminate the middleman. The message goes directly to the people that are the most important people on the defense, and that's the front line unit.
All right, Bucky, final thought with you here. Ryan Nielsen, now the defensive coordinator. And you mentioned that the staff is kind of the next step, right? Once you've gotten the job as a coordinator, to fill out everything else around you in the office.
Yeah, look, the staff is everything. Now, I'm hopeful. We'll see if it plays out. But there are two guys to me that are particularly of note that are on his staff in Atlanta that you kind of hope make their way to Jacksonville. One is Jerry Gray. Jerry Gray has been a longtime defensive coordinator. He's been associate head coach at a few different places. Everywhere he has been, the secondary has gotten better. He's a great teacher. He's a former player. He's done it for a long time. He does a great job with young players, developing them. The other guy is Frank Bush, who's also played a variety of roles on the defensive side of the ball, being a former D coordinator, linebacker coach, another great teacher, tactician. Those two guys, to me, are really critical. I'm hoping that those guys come into the fold because, man, they will add a wealth of experience and know-how to the positions.
Bucky, we can always count on you. You bring a lot of experience and know-how to this position, and we'll talk to you again next time.
Okay, man, let's do it.
Hey, shout out to Bucky. Shout out to the Jags organization as a whole. Man, those are some interesting ones. I'm going to have to do a little bit of breakdown of those assistant coaches as well. The guys that are apparently the blue bloods of the organization that actually help them run on a day-to-day. But if you want more reactions like this on the regular, breakdowns and more, link to the socials right there below. My name is Nick. This has been Roll Coverage. You have a great rest of the day. Peace.